Hello everybody, welcome to Technique Tuesday. Today we're going to be making a book binding card which looks like this, and which looks like a book binding down the side, hence its name. You'll remember recently I made this card with the fold back and I used the bikes to go across, which is 5.5 inches, and I made several of them from the same piece of designer series paper, of course, but 5.5 and 5.5 makes 11, and then I was left with this little piece at the edge of, wherever it came from. There's not really much you can do with a 1-inch strip of the back wheel of a bike until you suddenly discover that you need a 1-inch piece of designer series paper, and on the other side it just happens to be the right colour. So you know me, and I like to scrimp and use every last piece of the resources wisely, because yes, I used to be a Girl Guide, Girl Scout, so that rather pleased me. So that was what I used for this card. That was using the Country Floral Lanes designer series paper. This is the card we're going to be making today. This uses the Dainty Flowers designer series paper. Now this was quite easy to find because there's a whole side of it. Didn't want to use what's on the other side. It's a nice colour, but it didn't go with the card in hand. So I had this, and then I thought, oh, I wonder where that came from. So I looked through the pack and I found 2 of these, the one with the ovals and the one with the flowers, have all these lovely splotches. But then it's like, well, of course, I'm not going to cut a 12 by 12 piece of designer series paper just to get a 1-inch strip. So you'll forgive me that the card that we make today is almost but not quite the same. So without further ado, let's get started. So what we need is a piece of cardstock, and it's 4¼ by 11. We need a piece of designer series paper 4x4. We need a piece of basic white, which is 4x4. We need the little slither of not quite the same designer series paper, which is it's 4 by 1 1/8, and then the piece that makes the greeting, the white, is 1¾ by 1 inch, and the old olive is 2 by 1 1/8, 1 3/16. It's one of those that, to be quite honest, I took the piece of white and I laid it on the old olive and cut around it, and then I measured it, and that was the best size. So everything is ish, but to give you a heads up to what the sizes are. But of course, as always, the directions and the dimensions will be in the description box below. So let's get started. So what we need to do is we need to do 2 scorings. So we need to score at 4¼ . Let's take the cutting blade out of the way. So we'll score at 4¼ and 5½. And that's what will give us our book binding piece. So we'll just go ahead and fold it in half on the 5½. It's a pretty standard 4¼ by 11 scored at 5½, folded in half, gives you a basic card base. And then we're going to fold it backwards on itself on the other score line that we did at 4¼ . And this is where we're going to join it together, and that will make the book binding part of it. So what we need to do is we need to stick it down, and it needs to a strong adhesive, because it will try and open up. So I'm going to use the liquid glue. You can use tear and tape or any strong adhesive that you had, but I do recommend that you use a strong adhesive. So we'll just fold that down and just hold it for a quick second till it gets a chance to set and dry. And then try not to smear glue everywhere. Thank you very much, Alyson. What I will do is I will put that off to one side to dry, and we will do the little bit of stamping that there is. So I'm using the greeting which comes out of the Country Bouquet, and I love that we are friends. This is currently one of the sets in the mini catalogue. So I'm going to use the Rich Razzleberry cardstock, so we'll use the Rich Razzleberry ink. And stamp that a little bit off to one side. As all you fellow crafters know, every piece of cardstock's got two sides. That's a little bit better. Not much, I must be honest. But it will do. So give that a quick clean and close the ink up so we're not tempted to put our elbow in it or any other such tragedies. All right, so we'll use this side. So now that is definitely adhered. So we're just going to put the white inside because, of course, being a dark cardstock, you wouldn't necessarily be able to see so easily a greeting or writing that you would put inside. And then we will put the designer series paper on the outside. These are so nice and effective, these little cards. I love things that have a bit of a wow factor, that you can rustle up in not too long a time frame. And then we will I think I'll do it this way. We'll pop the designer series paper on the spine and hide that little bit of oops glue that I got on there earlier. And then we will use some dimensionals. I think it's quite funny that I've used all the dimensionals except the ones in the corners. There's probably a subliminal message in there somewhere, but who knows? So pop those off to one side, remove the backing paper, and just pop that in the corner. And the thing is, with the designer series paper being quite busy, I didn't feel it even really needed much more than that. It looks quite effective. I did think of putting a heart or a design on, and it seemed to compete with the designer series paper, and this paper is so lovely. It's really pretty, so why not let it be the star of the show? So there are the two that, you know, we've just duplicated. This is the one that uses the other paper, like I say, and that lovely little strip of recycling. One of my New Year's resolutions was to stop hoarding. Ha ha, crafters, you're going to laugh at me, I know. Well, to try and not hoard. You've got to start somewhere, don't you? So I thought, I'm not going to not buy new stuff until I've used up all I've got, but I really must make an effort to use up all the supplies that I bought and have sat in a cupboard or a box for, you know, 6, 10, 22 years. So this is some really old ribbon, but you know what? It looks nice and it does the trick. And there we go. Book binding, quick and effective. Like I say, I like cards that you can rustle up in a short space of time but still have that wow factor. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe. If you ring the bell, it will let you know when I've posted a video, or let you know when it's Tuesday, because Technic Tuesday, it's kind of obvious. If you pass a comment, I will gladly reply to it. And thanks so much for watching.